Your most precious. Do you know how to find out somebody's most precious item? Just asking them won't work. Would you have to trail them day and night? In the first place, could I even answer what my own precious item would be? I sigh and close my book. In the book, Sherlock says that to find somebody's most precious item, you could set a fire in their house and see what the first thing they run to is. I shake my head. Even if somebody set fire to my home, I don't think there's anything in particular I would try to save. Throughout my life, I've always felt like a leaf amongst the sea of other leaves on the tree. One strong gust and I drift away, shedding connections to everything I had before. The cafe I'm in is quiet, with the last of the patrons seemingly about to head out. A finger taps my shoulder from behind me. Sir, it's closing time. The waitress puts her hands on her hips, an empty expression on her face as she chewed gum that had lost all its flavor long ago. I immediately perk up, drinking the last of my coffee and stuffing my book into my bag before starting to head out the door. Sorry, thank you. I fumble to the door, giving it 1, 2, 3 pushes before realizing I need to pull it. As I step outside, I can only slap my face as it heats up. I can never, ever come back here. I look up at the sky above. The calm brightness of morning had seemingly vanished into a sea of gray clouds in my time at the cafe. I take out my phone for a moment before tentatively putting it back in my pocket. I'm not far from home, and it's a short walk through the park to get back. The park is empty as I walk along the path. The cool breeze carries with it only the sounds of crickets and the occasional chirping of birds. My head is down as I stare at my feet, each overtaking the other with every step. A number goes up in my head with each step I take. 276, 277, 278, 279. I look up. The shortcut through the park was not that big. I should have been home by now. It's eerily quiet, the sounds of all the animals replaced with only the sounds of leaves dragging themselves along the breeze. Something wet splashes onto my head. It's thick and falls from my hair in fist-sized globs. It feels like an eternity as I inch my head to look above me. A mountain of black goo towers above me, a singular massive eye in the center of it staring directly at me. It's easily 4 to 5 times my height, with a body that covers the shine of the night stars, with an infinite black void. As soon as it notices me staring at it, dozens of smaller eyes emerge from its body. Just the gaze of it seems to weigh down my body until a single step feels like wading through quicksand. I manage to take a step back, only for all of the eyes on the monstrosity to snap and stare at me. Run. I twist my body and break into a sprint. What the fuck? My body suddenly grows cold. At some point, I had closed my eyes as I ran, as if the monster would be cast away if I could no longer see it. The steps I'm taking no longer feel the pushback of the dirt underneath. I open my eyes to see my stomach replaced by a spear of black goo. The monster slowly picks me up from the ground through the spear, as if I was just meat on a fork. An eye emerges from the spear and looks up at me. It looks no different from the rest of them, but it gave off the same feeling of a young child who had managed to catch a small bird in their hands. The eye closes lazily before the monster pulls its body back, leaving a hole in my stomach. My body falls to the ground in a free fall, like the doll of a young girl who suddenly decided she wanted to play with something else. My vision stings red as my body hits the dirt in a muted thump. This is it, I guess. This is where my story ends. There was no happy ending where I grow old and get to pass away surrounded by friends and family. In a few months from now, all I would be is just another number in the system. A weird accident that nobody would care to figure out. Are you really okay with that? A young girl with short, raven black hair smiles at me from above. Her eyes were an abyss that commanded you to look further in, almost daring you to look away. A ring of amber circled 2 inky black pupils. She reaches down and twirls a strand of my hair in her fingers. You know, Humans have this tendency to think of their lives in terms of a story, each one the main character of their own book. The girl lets the strand of hair fall from one finger. She stands up and positions herself in front of the monster, pulling a pair of kitchen scissors from a pocket of her shirt. But you see, once you've lived as long as I have, you see things a little bit differently. Rather than a separate story for each human, you're more like individual letters, each letter forever interacting with the others to form the story of the world. At this point, the monster raises its body and prepares to engulf the young girl within itself. A gurgling noise emanated from deep within itself, like a growl that could only come from a being with intense hatred, but no mouth to declare it. Moments before the monster could devour her, I see the girl twist her head to look back at me. She whispers to me, but despite the distance, I can somehow hear her as if she was whispering directly into my ear. The thing is, I don't want to archive any more tragedy stories. I will use each and every one of you letters to create my own happily ever after. And so, all of you are my most precious, and you belong only to me. Her hair began to billow out backwards, the right side shimmering in a bright light before settling down into a snow-white hue. The bottom of her skirt seemed to be in a constant state of melting, tiny droplets of black ink falling to the ground before sizzling out. My eyelids struggled to keep themselves open, my body finally succumbing to its injuries. With the last of my sight, I see the monster collapse onto the girl, a wave of darkness that seemed to envelop me as well as I closed my eyes. It seemed like only a few seconds had passed since I fell unconscious, but when I finally opened my eyes, I was greeted with the early morning view of a freshly rained park. As if a dream, any evidence that something had happened vanished into nothingness. I looked down. The hole in my stomach was gone. Not even my shirt had any signs of damage. That couldn't have all been a dream, could it? I look at my reflection in a nearby puddle. The same deadpan face looks back at me, except for one small strand of hair. On the right side of my hair, a singular white hair stands out amongst the sea of black. Sigh. I must really be getting old if I'm falling asleep in the middle of the park and growing white hair. In spite of it all, past events had made me realize that I wouldn't want things to end on this chapter of my life. I may not have had something precious to protect if a fire started in my house, but that doesn't mean I won't find that something special down the line. And if the entire world were to catch fire, I think I might just find something worth protecting with my entire being. In a dimly lit room elsewhere, a young girl taps her finger against the window. Raindrops drag themselves down the glass before falling down onto the pavement below. She rises up from her chair and collects a single book from her collection on the shelves. She opens it briefly, flipping through the pages before pulling out a worn-down bookmark and putting the book back. The thin veil between the world of the gods and humans is starting to collapse. And it's not just them that'll be affected. In the worst case, all of us might be sent back to that hellhole. A door in the room suddenly opens, and 4 figures emerge from the shadows into the room. I'm not going back, Shiori. I just got hired into my dream job. I even get to see my wifey Kiara every day. We just have to protect the human smells, just like we always do, right, Mokoko? Bow, bow. Yeah, you're right, Fuawa. Like always. Bow, bow. Well, it might get a bit lonely if there was nobody left to tell Bijou how cute she is, I suppose. It can't be helped. The one known as Shiori raises up the bookmark in her hand and peers deep into it. From the first flame handed down to humans, look how far they've come. With the knowledge I provide them, I wonder just how far they'll reach then. She lets out a small giggle. Perhaps this world is in need of an advent.